Hello again, everyone, and welcome to my channel where I show you how to navigate a Jewish divorce. For those of you who are new here, I will tell you why I started posting videos a few years ago. From my own experience, I saw horrendous abuses taking place on the part of unscrupulous rabbinic actors in the area of Jewish divorce. See, for example, my first full-length video entitled Lana Rabba Kin, the Fake and Phony Aguna. Since then, I've been doing my best to educate Jewish men about the pitfalls inherent in the modern Jewish divorce process. In today's video, I will play for you a short clip of a podcast interview featuring Jeff Younger. He's a Texas dad who describes way better than I can what is really happening behind closed doors at the family court. You can find a link to the video in the description box. Pay close attention to his words because he explains how he has been fighting to maintain custody of his son. He's also trying to prevent his ex-wife from chemically castrating his son in an effort to transition him into a girl. And now for the video.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't understand how family courts work and what the incentives are in family courts. People think of them as, an objective judge and this sort of thing. But the way that family courts are managed is they prevent you from presenting contrary evidence. That's why I've never been allowed to select a psychologist for my son. The courts will never allow me to do that. The courts pick the psychologist who will then present the evidence to the court, right? Now, fortunately, I've been able to record them. I've been able to gather evidence and actually prove that they perjured themselves, so they've had to throw out all this evidence. But it's taken a lot of work and it's cost me a lot of money to do that, right? And most people can't do that. So family courts basically work off of fabricated evidence. That's number one. Number two, there's really no appeal from family courts. So family courts, unlike normal, like civil courts or criminal courts, there's almost no appellate options out of a family court. So the judges operate with no oversight and just do whatever they want. And third, and this is the big one, there are massive federal programs that were instituted in the late 1970s that pay states trillions of dollars to tear families apart. So it's so innocuous when I tell you, be like, this is a great program. But like in Texas, we get 66 cents on the dollar put into the Texas Treasury for every dollar of child support that's paid, right? So the state is now highly incentivized to issue the maximum amount of child support. That's why almost all divorces got 50-50 prior to the 1980s. And there was this skyrocketing of divorces where one parent loses custody. And that was to maximize Title IV-D reimbursements to the states. In Texas, it's $500 million to the Texas budget.
If the state is profiting off of child support?
Correct. And in most states, the Judicial Retirement Fund is funded from this money. So the more child support that's issued from the family courts, the larger the judicial retirement. It's a massive program. It's the size of the largest defense programs. So the incentives are absolutely huge.
To get people to pay child support?
Correct.
Even married people, to get them to break up and then have to pay each other child support?
Absolutely, yeah. So because you would think the best child support would just be 50-50 custody and let people raise their kids. The best child support is to raise your own kid. That's the best child support. But they don't do that. Most states actually have laws prohibiting the courts from doing that. Texas has a family code in which it's assumed to be in the child's best interest that one parent get 24% of the time. And the reason 24% was chosen precisely is it maximizes Title IV-D reimbursement to the state at 24%. Okay?
How does the maximization function? How does it come out at 24%?
So it has to do with how the state calculates child support. So Texas has one of the worst child support systems in the state. It doesn't take into account the income of both parents, and it doesn't take into account the amount of time you spend with the child. So there are fathers out there with 49% of the time that are paying maximal child support still.
Wow.
But again, that maximizes the reimbursement to the state. I have a friend of mine, him and his wife came to an agreement to do 50-50 parenting, no child support, because he watches the kids a lot while she travels for her work. And so it all worked out, and they decided it's just better to do it this way. The state of Texas sent an attorney to argue in the case that they should not be allowed to do 50-50 custody.
I read a story about some celebrity guy who had to pay massive child support. Mm-hmm. And then he and the wife both went to the court together as friends and said, hey, he's no longer working and doesn't have this money anymore. So we both agree it should be lower. And the court said no.
They won't do it.
Because they get a cut.
They get a huge kickback. Yeah.
Wow.
Now there's an even more evil program that's related to this Title IV-E. Title IV-E pays the states to adopt out orphans.
What do you mean adopt out orphans?
So
Like, put
whenever
them in foster care or
whenever
whatever?
CPS takes a child from someone and then adopts them into a good family, they get Title IV-E reimbursement funds, and it's a lot of money. It's like $50K per child.
The state gets that money?
Yes, it goes into the state budget.
And where does it come from?
Federal government.
Interesting.
Yep. So what'll happen in Texas is some satellite office of CPS will get low on budget, and they'll go and find a white baby under 2 years old, no medical problems, from working class parents who can't afford a lawyer, and then they take the child and adopt it out, and then they get $50,000 for their budget. That's how they do it.
Wow.
Just so you know, Jeff is engaged in an epic battle against his ex, Dr. Ann Gorgulis. He shows us that the reason so many men lose custody of the children is simply in order to make them liable to pay exorbitant amounts of child support. That's it. This is true even if they win 50% custody, let alone if they lose custody. Now, ever since I began posting videos on this channel, I've been doing exactly what most rabbis have been refusing to do, and that is to do their halachic duty by speaking out against the use of civil courts, especially in matters of divorce. They should be doing this not only because it's a serious sin that the Torah warns us against, but also because the fallout from these court rulings is absolutely devastating to so many men and their children. You see, Jewish women are being coached on how to use the civil court system for their own profit. That's right. It is a serious mistake to think even for 1 minute that the children are the beneficiaries of this process. Far from it. It is in fact immensely harmful to the physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. You must realize that the children are being deprived of the unique educational bond that a Jewish father has with his child. We remind ourselves about this special relationship 2 times every day in the Shema prayer when we say V'shinantam levanecha. So we are living in very scary times indeed. The biggest investment you will ever make is the building up of your family. But in today's chaotic times, we've got Rabbeim, dayanim looking the other way as your soon-to-be ex commits all of her shady misdeeds. And the result is that your life will come crashing down on you financially, emotionally, and psychologically. I hope you never know this, what it's like to lose your family. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. For many people, this type of loss is so devastating that they sometimes never recover from it. Many have committed suicide over this, God forbid, especially in Israel. So therefore, if you ever find yourself in this situation, I am urging you now to convince your wife to settle your divorce amicably and with fairness. Do this so that you and the children will not be dispossessed of the inheritance that Hashem has given you. Hashem gave both of you the children in order for both of you to be their parents. These are your God-given rights, which no earthly being has the right to take away from you. The Torah allows divorce, but it certainly does not leave any room for parental alienation to occur. Anyone who sets the children against one of the parents is negating one of the 10 commandments, which entails kibud avaim, which means honoring your parents. They are also transgressing many other commandments. Did you know that 90% of divorce petitions are initiated by women? Not only that, but they also happen to be responsible for most of the parental alienation. And yet, hardly a single rabbi or dayan is willing to bring the full force of halacha down upon these violators. This leaves us no choice but to apply the halacha ourselves. That is the only way to protect our God-given halachic and human rights of maintaining a relationship with our children. That is why I say all the time that while a get might be a mitzvah from the Torah, your fatherly rights are an even bigger mitzvah. The mitzvah of Shinantim Levanecha occurs daily. The giving of a get is just one time. And if your ex is willing to violate the Torah by stripping you of your halachic rights in respect to the divorce, then you are certainly not obligated to fulfill the mitzvah of giving a get, especially when giving a get under these circumstances will only invite her continued abuses of halacha. Don't be fooled by the ignoramuses who call us get refusers. The real refuser is your ex-wife who refuses to follow the Torah laws pertaining to divorce. Let me make myself perfectly clear. Our only hope to achieve any fairness in the divorce process is to hold on to that get. Do that until such time that your ex complies with the dictates of the Shulchan Aruch. The Code of Jewish Law is the final arbiter of disputes involving asset distribution and custody. Please do not step into the muck and mire of any pants on fire bezdin, the kind that is most prevalent today. They are only here to assist the woman in their nefarious anti-Torah divorce schemes. They do not care one whit about our halachic rights. Yet they try to scare and intimidate us by seeking to defame us and our families. But their threats to excommunicate us from the community pales in comparison to the devastation that we bring upon ourselves when we sign their fraudulent arbitration agreement. And so, my dear viewers, I say that I wish for you, may Hashem grant you the wisdom to see through the lies and deceptions of today's dishonest rabbis. Thank you for watching, and see you all in the next video.